No, because no, I don't. Because the videos you saw of the town halls were for paid protesters in many of those places. These are Democrats who went to the events early and filled up the seats. If the videos had panned outside the building,
you can't argue they were all paid protesters, though, Mr. Speaker.
Many of them were.
A Republican acknowledged they were his constituents.
One Republican acknowledged they were his constituents. That's fantastic. Okay, but they had Democrats come and fill the seats early, all right? This is an old playbook that they pulled out and ran, and it made it look like that what is happening in Washington is unpopular. But I'm going to tell you, Kaitlan, the American people are behind what's happening.
That's Republican Speaker Mike Johnson triggering CNN host and makeupless joker Kaitlan Collins by calling out her Democrat issue narrative about the unpopularity of Elon Musk and the recent DOGE cuts. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing while expecting different results, the political hacks at CNN must be certifiably bonkers, as Speaker Mike Johnson recently discovered in an interview at the intellectual kiddie table known as The Source with Kaitlan Collins. Here's CNN's favorite pretend journalist repeating a lie so much that the normally patient Johnson becomes visibly frustrated with her.
He doesn't want to cut Medicaid benefits for anybody, and we don't either. I don't either. We're not going to do that. That's not part of this plan, and the Democrats have been lying about it, and so it's important for us to clarify that. We're going to cut fraud, waste, and abuse out of Medicaid, and that's where we're going to get part of the savings to accomplish this mission.
But are people who are covered by Medicaid now going to potentially lose Medicaid coverage as a result of this?
No, look, the White House has made a commitment. The president said over and over and over, we're not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. We've made the same commitment. I challenge you or anybody on your staff, do a word search for Medicaid on the resolution that we passed last night. You will not find it. That is not part of this equation, okay? We're talking about finding efficiencies in every program, but not cutting benefits for people who rightly deserve that.
You say Democrats are lying when they say you're going to cut Medicaid. The plan that you passed does instruct the House Energy and Commerce Committee to find $880 billion in cuts, right?
That's right. That's one of the
committees. So how did they get $880 billion in cuts from that committee without touching Medicaid?
Because ENC has it actually has the broadest jurisdiction of any committee in Congress. It covers everything, energy and commerce.
But on that Energy and Commerce Committee, the vast majority of funds that they have are Medicare and Medicaid. So when you talk about $880 billion,
that's simply not true.
So where are you cutting from within that committee?
Energy and Commerce's jurisdiction would take us 20 pages to go through, Kaitlan. They've got
almost
everything in the U.S. economy. There are large pools in the healthcare components, but we're not going to cut benefits for people who are rightfully deserve it.
Will you reduce the federal match or try to establish a cap on federal funding as you sort through this for Medicaid?
No, I just explained. Per capita caps is off the table. The FMAPs, we're not going to cut into those programs that way.
Yeah, I was just asking because, as you know, your home state of Louisiana, about 80% of the Medicaid spending there is covered by the federal government.
You know, it's funny how many of these interviews with conservatives on establishment media are exactly like this. It's almost as if all of these pretend journalists are subscribing to the philosophy that if you tell a lie enough, it becomes the truth. And the biggest lie Democrats want them to tell right now is that Trump gutting the administrative state is widely unpopular with Americans, which isn't true according to their own polls, so they have to fabricate things like Trump ending Medicaid or voters staging protests across the country.
As you have seen through this, and we've seen the blowback that some Republicans in your caucus that are getting when they go back home to their districts, worried about these cuts or worried about what DOGE is doing. Do you have concerns that that's anything that Democrats will be able to use to run against those Republicans?
The DOGE efforts is polling over 80% right now. They want us to find efficiencies in the federal government. They want the government to be smaller and leaner and more accountable to the taxpayers. And that's what these efforts are all about. That's what the Republican Party is about. That's what our commitment is to do, to make government work better for the people. This is a restoration of common sense above everything else. And I think the American people are going to remain in favor of what's happening here.
Okay, those lawmakers do also represent Democrats. That doesn't mean they were paid to show up if they're upset about this. But I want to move on because just to get on what you are trying to do overall here, I know you're used to difficult tasks. You've had a small majority. You survived a threat to your speakership. But a question that a lot of people have is how you are going to balance the budget without touching Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid.
Elon Musk has said that he can find close to $1 trillion in fraud, waste, and abuse. I was with him late last night in his office going through what he's doing. This is very real. We're going to have new revenue and savings that we have never had before. The gold card that President Trump announced yesterday, I mean, that could bring in hundreds of billions of dollars. So we'll see how all this plays out over the months ahead as the budget and the spending habits of Washington change and the efficiency of Washington changes. I think the American people are going to like what they see.
Yeah,
and you got to wait and see how all this balances out.
And we will. None of that's guaranteed. We'll see what those numbers look like.
You know, I love how Collins is acting like she's capable of grasping anything related to the budget or spending after devoting 90% of this interview to asking Johnson the same question over and over again until he got frustrated with her. I mean, it's pathetically transparent how desperate they are for this narrative to stick, because it's frankly been loss after loss for them since Trump announced that he was running again. Which is why you've been seeing insane things like liberals frantically attempting to blame these plane crashes on him, despite the fact that conservatives have been complaining about the competency crisis in aviation for a year or so now. I mean, it's gotten so absurd that some of these people are so desperate for a win that they've basically admitted on air that they're hoping for a recession, which honestly should tell you all you need to know about who they're actually rooting for. But let me know what you think. Are these DOGE protests authentic, or another media fabrication blown out of proportion to serve their agenda? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye!